Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our CRM podcast. Today, I have a special guest from our professional services team and consulting team. George, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on today's session. So my role is everything orientated to customer experience, customer service excellence. So working with customers at the forefront, understanding their challenges, understanding how their consumers are interacting with their brand, taking the challenges and hopefully turning things into reality with technology, but also understanding processes, data, and essentially working with C-level to understand how we can get the most out of their investment in technology.
Thank you. So today we wanted to touch on a very interesting subject. How is AI impacting the way organizations are able to deliver a better customer experience? And ultimately, a perfect customer experience is very difficult to achieve. There's so many challenges to it, data challenges, people challenges, operational design, and the ongoing challenge of technology, right? So what we're trying to understand is how we match the pace of an organization to evolve and improve with the evolution of technology out there. And we all know how much AI has been disrupting the customer experience field, and we thought we'd talk a little bit about that. So in terms of customer service operations, how is this being reshaped with the introduction of AI? What are you seeing on the field?
Absolutely. I think it's quite interesting really because conversations when we first started in this space around about 10 years ago now, everything was omni-channel. What is omni-channel? How can customers communicate through the method of their choice? Now we're seeing WhatsApp, seeing social media, and the same conversations are now happening with AI. AI is a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. If you're not talking about it in a positive way, you're talking about it in a negative way or some connotation in that sense. And really, it's really shaping customer experience in a different dimension. Faster resolution time, increased CSAT, NPS scores are being shaped by this. So really, it's taking customer experience to a new level, both in technology, but also the conception it's having on consumers with their brands as well. When we dig down into a little bit of detail, which we'll touch on later on, it's actually now we're scratching beneath the surface, right? ChatGPT was a big eye opener for many brands and people. And how can we then take that product, and it's now being productized, it's now being shipped into already existing customer service tools. So it's really, I suppose, giving it an edge in that sense in the customer service perspective.
Yeah. From an operational or from a strategic perspective, I think leaders are, C-level executives that are thinking, how can we leverage AI to improve the customer experience? I think it actually makes you think on how to redesign the role people play in these teams, the role technology plays, and how that is evolving. Because a lot of the manual work that was been done up to now, especially on very large customer service centers, is now shifting towards what the machines can do for us. So leveraging human capabilities and human intelligence to actually deliver on the touch points that are more human is an interesting balance to reach, right? So what are brands asking in terms of the capabilities that they are looking for in AI?
So I think I put things into different buckets, I suppose. When people say AI within customer experience, they think chatbots, they think automatic resolutions, and they think everything, this AI is going to help solve all of my customers' problems. But now we're seeing it in different dimensions. So the chatbots is, of course, a fundamental part. How can our customers get a quicker and a more accurate resolution when they're engaging with our brand, which, of course, increases retention and reduces churn, hopefully, ideally in the future. The second area of capabilities is now agent assisting. So not only are we saying that chatbots are going to replace agents, but those that need to handle the request, have they got all the tools in their armory to be able to make decisions and find a resolution as quickly as possible? Whether that's automating simple processes, whether that's integrating or leveraging data to help them have a 360 view of who they're speaking to. But really, we're now looking at it in two perspectives. The chatbots, as I mentioned, but also looking from behind the scene, how can we automate some of these laborious processes, but making sure there's still a human element to it, and we're not just replacing everybody with this so famous bots that everybody presumes is going to happen.
I think an interesting thing is that we did a little event on AI recently, and we asked people before coming to the event to tell us about their experience with AI. And 9 out of 10 people, when they had to quote an AI tool, they were only able to quote ChatGPT, right? And if you move away from that, the other extreme is you have access to API delivered, large language models, or all of these tools that require your team to be extremely technical to be able to leverage that. But then in the middle, you have the products, the productized AI that is being delivered by the different vendors, the technology vendors, such as Salesforce, Zendesk, Sugar CRM, Ada, all these products that we work with that we are finding really interesting because they are actually finding, very tactical applications of to AI. What are you finding is being deployed by them that you find useful?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we see across the board is, even before we look at CRMs or customer service tools, not one size fits all, and not every product can deliver everything that, and they may say they do, of course, but ultimately we've got to find what's right for the right customer. So what we're finding is products such as Zendesk, for example, they're, for me, really disrupting the email campaign side of things. So what does that mean? When customers email in, because email's not going anywhere, can we identify what the intent is, what their sentiment is, and what language they're using, and really leverage that data to then automatically route cases, prioritize things, give it to the best associated people. Emails historically have been super difficult to manage, right? Because we don't know what an email says, just like we don't know what a WhatsApp says until we open up that particular message or email. So really, if we can aggregate that data from the moment it hits our customer service team, we can then service that to the best team appropriately. Then the flip side of that, we look at Ada, and that's really then transforming the generative AI perspective. So really, somebody answers a simple question, it then surfaces all of the content, and it doesn't just send back a traditional, here, read this article. It's actually giving you specific comments within that article to pinpoint what that answer is. So it's really, again, taking not just the knowledge, but maybe surfacing the web, using integrations with OpenAI. So really, they're two different productized versions. Now, both products, of course, offer the same products in terms of email, telephony, sort of AI perspectives. But really, they're the two key fundamental benefits that they both offer.
Yeah. So the intent recognition in one side and the utilization of natural language processing,
correct,
and large language models on the other side, right? I find natural language processing so fascinating because there's so many little details that come in the way you write an email that can tell whether the customer is upset, whether the customer really understands the problem they're having or not. That, before we had this capability, you actually had to route through, different process of elimination, right? And now that the resolution is way faster now. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing is that when we're implementing such products, we're not going in for an all guns blazing, this is going to solve everything. Actually, maybe we need to do a bit more of a methodical approach to say, actually, before we start automating things, do we want to give it a confidence level? So we think the intent is an issue with my payment or refund. But how confident is that intent model? How much data is that learning from historical tickets? So then be able to identify, okay, if this is really a refund and it's a confidence of high, before we send any automation out to external facing customers, maybe we just add an internal comment or in the form of a collaboration, we assign it to somebody. And then we validate that. We then go to the next step, phase 2, for example, might then be actually deploying that to a live or external customers, I suppose. So you can really give it a confidence level before you start. Maybe some customers a bit more, maybe they're overwhelmed, confused, there's lots of information on the internet, but really we want to approach it in a methodical way, phase 1, phase 2, and then, as sort of up the stepping ladder to that step.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, the maturity levels. I think they require you to do the homework at the beginning, and for instance, for the AI to learn the knowledge that you have. And that's a relatively fast process, but you have to do it first before you do anything else. So for large language models or tools that use natural language processing, if you have an extensive knowledge base, you can basically teach that to the AI like if it was a human, and it will be immediately able to answer a lot of questions in natural language, which I find fascinating, right? And you can do the same whether it comes from, a chatbot or an email or even voice, right? But what are actually the challenges that we're finding when it comes down to implementing? Because then there are some constraints that we have to work on.
Of course, and it's quite ironic because we're talking quite a mature level of understanding what AI is. And as I say, everybody's talking about it from the customer service agents on the front facing all the way up to C-suite. But actually, we're presuming that a lot of these customers have a knowledge base that's rich with content and articles. We're presuming they've got an understanding of what their requests are about. We've got a presumption that we know who our buyers are, what their journey is. So maybe we need to understand actually, where are you in that metric? Are you someone that's really maybe not so much immature in your personality, but immature in terms of your customer service understanding. So do we have a content management? Do we have an understanding of how to publish data? Do we actually understand what our customers are talking about? And therefore we can leverage that to route it to the correct team. If we just have a support team, well, routing it to the support team doesn't add any value, I suppose. Then the other side of this coin is if you are quite mature, or have we got regulatory compliances that we need to fit in? So financial services, for example, KYC, we have to really understand we're not just working with the end user, we're actually working with the regulatory to approve what their measurements are, I suppose. The third barrier is actually, do we have a team who understands what the challenges and problems are? Is it coming from the top down to say we need AI just because everybody else has got AI? Is that our differentiator? So actually, are we just doing it for the sake of doing it? Actually, do we understand what our problems are and what the return on investment is going to be? So before we even get to that stage, we want to have that conversation to go, right, this are the problems, these are the solutions, and this is the return on investment, and this is how quickly you're going to get there. Because just because we add AI in doesn't mean the solution is solved overnight. So we have to be pragmatic, and we have to have a grown-up conversation around the table to say, we appreciate the product and the technology is there. This is where we are, and this is where we're going to get to over that period of time.
I think that's where we find it, where the really interesting and more meaningful conversations are, really understanding the business case at a tactical level that delivers the value, the ROI, and the business case for that, right? Another thing that I've come across that I think is really interesting is that in a lot of the implementations, the application that is actually managing the customer service relationship is not connected to any other systems. So the more integrated that application will be with your CRM, with your back office, your e-commerce system, your retail system, the better the AI can work, because it cannot just answer a question based on a knowledge capability, but also bringing the 360 view of the customer to integrate with that knowledge and answer questions based on that context, because you're actually able to create context for the solution. Right?
And I think customer service historically, even now, is still very much thought of a reactive way to engage with customers. Our customers have got a problem, they need to ask a question, but actually, why can't we use it to be personalization to who before they even need to engage with us? So particularly in B2C or e-commerce, when they're looking to buy a new product, whether that's on a chatbot or through email, if we know that I'm speaking to Joe Blogs and that he loves a blue t-shirt from a certain brand, why not use AI to then maybe suggest certain blue tops that he might like or they might like? So it's actually flipping on its head, and customer service doesn't have to be the other end of it. It can actually be proactive and keep that customer engaged and bought into the brand values.
I think that use case is really easy to see in travel and hospitality, where people generally, when they are reaching out to customer service, is whilst they're traveling or whilst they're using the service that they purchased, because they're having trouble, either with a reservation, booking, and getting to the resolution not only achieves the result of solving the problem, but that's where you really have an impact on the customer experience. And if you're able to solve it quickly and effortlessly, and you reduce that barrier, that's where your brand becomes different from the competition,
Absolutely.
right? So in terms of the AI capability to be able to predict the sentiment from the customer or what the customer is looking for when they open a ticket, I think Zendesk is actually doing a pretty good job at, they've come up with some of the solutions that are in the product that are relatively easy to implement. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's again, as I mentioned before, there's a couple of steps or stages we get to really. It's first of all understanding, as you said, the business context. Why are you looking to engage in such a product or looking to add this to your already maybe a long list of products that you might already have? Then what are the challenges you're trying to face? So actually, what can we pinpoint that's going to have a good return on investment? And then with the Zendesk specifically, we can really then start adding it through layers, so we can actually understand, okay, well, the particular challenge might be we're not providing a quick enough resolution time. Okay, well, is there a particular reason or use case? Refunds are really hard to manage. We're not quite getting all the information we need. And typically, refunds will always be through email. You have to download a PDF. You have to go to a shop potentially. So really, there's a lot more manual processes from the end user side, but not only from the back end side. So if we can then identify, okay, we're not getting quick resolutions for refunds. We're not identifying what a refund is until somebody opens it. Maybe that's a good place to start. Maybe we could actually say for anything to do with refunds, automatically send a response back to say, please, can you download this PDF to then give us that information? Now we're going with a bit of an assumption, but it allows us to really capture that information, and then it's to sort of increase that one-touch resolution, or at least give a more of an engaging response to our end users before we start actually, looking to solve it straight away, I suppose.
I think you touched on something really interesting, the one-touch resolution, because a lot of customer service teams talk about deflection, and deflection is a really bad tactic to use, because you don't want deflection. You actually want to satisfy that requirement. So you want to resolution quick and painless. You want the resolution to be quick and painless.
And this is a perfect example of where customer service has changed over the last 4 or 5 years. Everything was orientated to deflection. We don't want customers to contact us because we want to deal with the most important customers or the highest priority cases. But now we want to deal with everything because we want to show we care to our consumers or brands. But actually, we've got to understand, okay, well, what's more important? Yes, we want to service everything, but we want to say, okay, well, if you're going to ask for this question, here's a really quick answer, and you can service that yourself.
I think the Salesforce products on Service Cloud and the way the analytics on customer service, the AI element of it gives you visibility on, what are the things that potentially could happen or the things that you can improve. And I think this is where it's a different application of AI. Again, productize. So if you already own Zendesk, if you already own Salesforce, if you've done the homework right, there's no reason why you couldn't take advantage of these solutions, right?
And this is not you implement something and the solutions are there. This is evolving. The data's changing. Your consumers are changing. So just because you feel like you found a solution for today doesn't mean to say that solution is going to be right for the future. And a lot of our projects that we sort of implement, not just AI but customer service, is with an MVP but phased approach. And the reason being is we can set yourself for success with the foundation. You learn from that. You adopt. You change. You grow. And then your processes sort of evolve with that as well.
It's much easier to justify the business case that way as well, right? Because the business can see results from the very beginning. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think that's all the time we have for today. But if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about AI solutions for customer experience, we'd be happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happy to speak to anybody that wants a bit more information. And look forward to continuing that.
Thank you very much. And